Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Let me begin by saying this. Everything you're chasing, everything you're dreaming of, none of it will mean a thing if your foundation isn't solid. And I'm not talking about money, fame, or applause. I'm talking about putting God first. You see, education, talent, ambition, these are all powerful tools, but tools are only as effective as the hand that holds them. When you put God first, you place those tools in the hands of the Creator, the one who sees the full picture, not just your present situation. When you wake up in the morning, give thanks, not because everything is perfect, but because you've been given another day to walk in purpose. That breath you just took, that was grace. And when you understand that, you stop moving through life entitled and start walking in gratitude. Now I know you're being told to hustle harder, to grind nonstop, to chase the bag. But let me tell you something. You can hustle all day and still feel empty at night. You can reach the top of the mountain and find there's nothing there unless God was with you on the climb. True success is rooted in spiritual foundation. That's not just a motivational phrase. It's a principle that has stood the test of time. In a world that measures success by external achievements, money, status, popularity, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. But when you build your life on a foundation that goes deeper than what people see, when you put God first, you begin to understand success in its truest form. Success isn't about how many accolades you've collected. It's not defined by the title on your office door or the number in your bank account. Those things can disappear overnight. Markets crash, trends change, the applause fades. What you build on sand will eventually crumble. But when your life is rooted in God, when you trust in something eternal, you build on rock. And when the storm comes, and it will come, you'll be standing while others fall apart. Putting God first realigns your definition of success. It reminds you that success is not about competing with others. It's about becoming who you were created to be. It shifts your focus from self-promotion to purpose, from chasing validation to walking in obedience, from being driven by pressure to being led by peace. And that shift, that's where true success begins. Let's be honest, talent will open doors. Hard work will earn you respect. Discipline will push you through obstacles. But without a spiritual foundation, those things won't sustain you. People can have talent and still fall into despair. People can be famous and still feel lost, because the soul is never satisfied with just a mole. The soul needs meaning. It needs connection. It needs God. When you put God first, you stay humble in your highs and hopeful in your lows. You begin to understand that you are not the source of your success. You are a vessel for something greater. That humility is what keeps pride from taking over when things go well. And that faith is what keeps fear from destroying you when things go wrong. Putting God first also gives you moral clarity in a world that constantly blurs the lines. It becomes easier to make hard decisions when you know who you're ultimately accountable to. Integrity matters more. Character matters more. You're not just asking, what can I get away with? But what's the right thing to do? And when you live that way, success is no longer a finish line. It becomes a journey of faith, discipline, and purpose. Here's something else. When God is your foundation, failure doesn't define you. Mistakes don't destroy you. Because your identity isn't in what you do, but in whose you are. You learn to bounce back not because you're strong, but because God is stronger. You grow through setbacks. You gain wisdom from wounds. And that growth, that's success too. In the end, true success is about alignment. It's about aligning your gifts with your calling, your actions with your values, and your heart with God. And when you do that, the success you experience will not just be seen. It will be felt. It will inspire others. It will outlast you because it's not rooted in ego. It's rooted in eternity. So whatever you aim for in life, whether it's education, business, art, service, start with God. Put Him first, not just in your words, but in your choices, in your time, and in your heart. Because when God is first, everything else finds its proper place. That's the kind of success worth striving for. Discipline, purpose, and gratitude flow from prioritizing God. That may sound simple, but it is deeply powerful when lived out. In a world filled with distractions, pressure, and uncertainty, putting God first becomes the compass that guides every aspect of your life. It doesn't just shape what you do. It transforms how and why you do it. Let's start with discipline. Many people try to develop discipline through sheer willpower. They wake up early, grind through long hours, set goals, and stay focused. That's admirable. But when your discipline is connected to God, it gains a different kind of strength. You're no longer just trying to force yourself to stay on track. You're being fueled by a deeper reason. You're not just working hard to prove something to the world. You're staying faithful to the calling God placed in your life. That's where consistency comes from. That's where resilience is born. When God is at the center, your discipline becomes more than a routine. It becomes an act of obedience. You stop chasing perfection and start embracing progress. You learn to show up even when no one's watching, because you're not working for applause. You're working from a place of purpose. And that discipline, rooted in faith, will carry you through seasons when motivation disappears and life gets heavy. Then comes purpose. Everyone wants to find theirs. We hear it everywhere. Alive your purpose. Find your calling. But how do you find something that deep? You don't just stumble upon it. You discover it when you tune in to the one who created you. God designed you with intention. You weren't made at random. You're not here by accident. And when you start with God, when you ask Him to lead, you begin to uncover why you're here. Purpose isn't just about doing what you're good at. It's about doing what you were made for. And that clarity only comes when you put God first. He gives your talents meaning. It gives your struggles perspective. It connects the dots between where you've been and where you're going. You realize that even your pain wasn't wasted. It was shaping you for something greater. With purpose comes direction. You stop following trends and start following truth. You're not just chasing what's popular, you're building something eternal. And when you walk in purpose, you're not easily shaken by setbacks. You know that God is still working even when the results aren't immediate. That's the kind of grounding the world can't give you. That's what happens when you prioritize God. And finally, gratitude. When God is first in your life, you don't just see what you're lacking. You start to recognize how much you've already been given. Gratitude doesn't come from having everything. It comes from seeing everything through the lens of grace. You become thankful for closed doors because you trust God has better ones. You learn to be content in the waiting because you know the delay is part of your development. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's because you're confident in the path God has you on. Gratitude makes your spirit lighter. It shifts your focus from stress to strength, from worry to worship. And in a world that's always telling you to want more, gratitude reminds you to appreciate what you already have and to take care of it well. So when you put God first, everything else starts to flow. Discipline is no longer a burden. It's a response to calling. Purpose is no longer a mystery. It's a divine direction. Gratitude is no longer a reaction. It's a way of life. You start living from a place of wholeness, not pressure. And in that space, you find peace, strength, and joy, not just success. Putting God first isn't a limitation. It's the beginning of real freedom. Because when He leads, you don't just survive. You grow, you thrive, and you rise. In conclusion, putting God first is not just a spiritual ideal. It's a practical, powerful way to live. It grounds you with discipline, fuels you with purpose, and fills you with gratitude. It doesn't mean life will be perfect, but it does mean you'll be equipped. Equipped to handle the highs with humility and the lows with resilience. When God is your foundation, your path becomes clearer, your decisions become wiser, and your heart becomes stronger. So wherever you go in life, whatever you aim to achieve, start with God, stay with God, and watch how everything else falls into place. That's where true success begins.